The thing you have to understand about the lighthouse keepers on the Isle of Ash is that they never actually lit the lamp. Not officially, anyway. The job for a century had been advertised as one of quiet, solitary vigil, maintaining the optics, polishing the brass, and logging the weather. But every single man who took the post quickly learned the truth, which was a tradition of silence and a daily escalating dread. My name is Arthur, and I was the last. The previous keeper, a quiet man named Elias, left the logbook on the main console for me, open to the final entry, which was not a report of fog or wind, but a single, carefully drawn map of the island's highest. Dune marked with a huge, ominous X below it. In a shaky, almost childish hand were 3 words: "Don't dig deep." My contract stipulated a minimum stay of 6 months. I lasted 3 weeks. The hook, the thing that immediately tells you something is deeply wrong, is the sound. On a remote island, especially on a still night, the dominant sound should be the relentless sweep of the ocean, the hiss of the spray. But at Ash Island, you heard something else. A constant, wet, rhythmic thud from somewhere beneath the foundation. It was the sound of something large, dense, and slightly pliable, repeatedly impacting the base rock. I told myself it was geological, a strange tidal surge, or shifting subterranean plates. But the island was granite, solid and ancient, and the sound never varied, never shifted with the tide. It was a mechanical rhythm dictated by a non-mechanical object. It started every evening at dusk, sharp and insistent, and it stopped precisely at dawn. Elias's logbook became my only companion, my desperate handwritten Bible. The first week, the entries are dry and factual, standard meteorological notes. The second week, they turn observational, focused on the seaweed. Not just the usual kelp, but a strange, pale, nearly white variety that washed up in enormous, suffocating drifts. It was always cold to the touch, and it never dried out. Elias noted that on the 6th night, he found a piece draped over the foghorn's mouth, placed with almost deliberate care. The 3rd week, the entries shift completely into paranoia. Stopped logging the weather and started logging the movements of the gulls. Not that he saw them, but that he heard them. He wrote, simply, "They speak my name now." Not calling, but saying it. They are learning to mimic the voice of the dead. He then detailed how the thudding sound beneath the tower seemed to respond to the gulls. The rhythm speeding up, becoming erratic, frantic, as if whatever was down there was also listening and becoming agitated. My own experience followed his log with frightening precision. After 7 days of the thudding, the seaweed appeared. It covered the walkway like a cold, slick carpet. I had to scrape it off with a shovel, and the smell was not of the ocean, but something metallic, like ancient pennies mixed with spoiled milk. The next day, the gulls started. I was outside cleaning the glass, and I heard it. Not the typical shriek, but a low guttural murmur that resolved impossibly into my predecessor's voice. "Arthur, Arthur." It was Elias's voice, flat and desperate, echoing from a dozen white birds circling the lamp. That night I knew I was no longer alone, but I was still utterly isolated. The ritual I learned from the Deep Cove entries in the log was the most important thing. It wasn't about the light, it was about the sand. Every midnight, Elias would descend to the base of the tower and shovel precisely 12 pounds of the finest, whitest beach sand into a galvanized bucket. He would carry it up to the balcony, and, standing exactly at the compass's north point, he would scatter it slowly into the wind. He never explained why, only that this action repeated every night was the only thing that kept it in the dark. It was the thing that made the thudding sound, was what the seaweed covered, and it was hungry for the light. When I took the sand up on my first midnight, the thudding stopped instantly. The silence was heavier than any sound I had ever heard. As I scattered the fine white powder, I saw why the island was named Ash. The sand was not sand at all. The entire island was built on a foundation of ground remains. My moment of horror was cut short by the sound of the glass in the lantern room vibrating. I looked up and saw a shadow on the interior of the huge lens, a massive, pale shape pressing against the glass from the outside. The light, which I had never lit, was suddenly essential. I fumbled for the ignition, throwing the switch. The arc lamp flared to life, casting an immense, blinding white beam into the night. The light worked. The thudding stopped completely, and the shadow recoiled. The light revealed the secret of the mist. Ash Island was perpetually shrouded in a cold, heavy mist, which the official records attributed to climate. But now, with the white beam cutting through it, I saw that the mist was not moisture. It was a dense swarm of what looked like billions of microscopic insects, colorless and thin, drawn to the tower. And then I saw the true purpose of the sand. When I scattered the bone dust, the mist recoiled, temporarily repelled by the calcium. When I lit the lamp, the mist began to descend, attracted like moths to the immense, radiant heat. I realized the horrifying truth in the next 24 hours. The traditional job of the keeper was not to guide ships, but to warn them away. The light was not a beacon. The thudding I heard was the thing underneath the island, agitated, trying to rise. The thudding stopped when I lit the lamp because the light had delivered its meal. My final night was spent barricaded in the lantern room, the thudding gone, replaced by a dreadful silence and a feeling of immense crawling weight on the glass. The gulls, completely silent now, sat on the railings, just watching. I looked at Elias's last entry again. Don't dig deep. He wasn't warning me not to disturb the bone sand on the dune. He was warning me not to look too closely at the official story, the deep foundation of the lie. The light, the magnificent, beautiful light, was my undoing. I knew I had to escape. Not just the island, but the job itself. I made it to the boat just before dawn. The lamp, which I had turned off hours ago, was still dark. But a faint, diffuse white glow was emanating from the base of the tower, from the ground floor windows. It was too pale to be electric. It was the eerie, pulsing light of bioluminescence. As I squinted across the dark water, the final, dreadful twist revealed itself. It wasn't the tower that housed the monster, or even the sea. As I watched the strange glow grow stronger, the rhythmic, wet thud began again. But this time, it was not beneath the island. It was coming from the hull of my own small escape boat. The white, dry seaweed I had inadvertently tracked aboard had begun to pulse, and the glowing from the island was not a warning. It was a mirror. I had not escaped the thing in the dark. I had simply carried the final lethal ingredient with me. And the last lighthouse keeper, Arthur, would be the next sound of rhythmic thudding on the open ocean.